Hello, I'm Sam and I'm the Graduate Recruitment Manager at Shoosmiths. Thanks for joining us on our Shoosmiths live video today. Today we're going to talk to you about making the most of feedback so that you can succeed next time around. I'm joined today by Yvonne Oakenfull, who's going to introduce herself.
Yes, hi, I'm Yvonne. I'm part of the Learning and Development team. I actually report through to the Head of Knowledge Management and Learning and Development here at Shoosmiths, a lady called Caroline White-Robinson, supporting her really in delivering the strategy for learning and development. So yeah, work closely with the business skills guys as well and the learning content management team. So yeah.
Thanks, Yvonne. So I just want to get to know Yvonne a little bit better throughout the session today. So firstly, Yvonne, if you could tell me what is the favourite thing about your role at Shoosmiths?
Oh, that's an easy one, Sam. I love the fact that I get to meet and work with a variety of different people. Absolutely love that. Different people in different roles. Yeah, absolutely feel privileged to be able to do that. No 2 days are the same. Yeah, the variety, I think being in learning and development, you know, we're out there, we're very current, and yeah, very, very different days.
I think you have a really privileged role in that you get to meet so many of the new people coming into the firm in terms of their training, but then obviously their development throughout the business as well as they grow and become promoted throughout the different levels. So you must have a really good overview of everybody that works for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is, as you say, you get very close to the ground floor. You see and you hear everything that's going on. You know, the fact that, to say that I love that I meet so many different people. I'm really passionate about us as human beings, how we function as human beings, on top of the day job. I'm sure you're aware of this already, Sam, but I've studied anatomy and physiology. I'm a qualified reflexologist. I'm very, very passionate about getting people curious, really, in what's going on in ourselves, in our bodies. It helps in terms of enabling us. Also, I think people should trust in themselves. You know you better than anyone else. So, you know, a couple of key messages. You know, get curious, get interested in what's going on here. You get some choice, but also trust in that gut instinct. So yeah, I love the fact that I work with people.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Development.
So you've been at Shoosmiths for a little while now. How long have you been at Shoosmiths
Oh,
for?
goodness me. Yes, I've been back here 26 years. I did work here a little bit before then, before I had my 2 children. My background's actually legal finance, and I moved into a training role about probably 15 years or so ago. And again, you know, people have believed in me, they've supported me. It's been a fantastic environment to grow. It really has. And as cheesy as this may sound, you know, it's about finding something, doing a job that you absolutely love. You'll never work another day in your life. I know it's cheesy, but it's true.
It is true, and that's why we have so many people that stay for a long time at Shoosmiths. So I hope that's the reason. So. So now Yvonne's given you a little bit of background about her expertise in the area, I guess, of people. I'll tell you a little bit more about how we're going to structure today's live session. So we're going to talk to you about feedback, predominantly the feedback that you're provided with perhaps after an assessment centre or a training contract interview. But I think it's fair to say that you'll be able to apply this advice to any feedback scenario. So whether that is from an interview, from an application form, whether it's in your current job or perhaps in your studies where you're being given feedback on your work. So hopefully you'll be able to take away this advice today to help you succeed next time. Just to give you a bit of my experience, I've been at Shoosmiths for 8 years now, and I've seen around 16,000 applications in that time, which is a lot. And we've seen around 800 to 900 candidates in that time as well through our assessment centres. So it's really important to us at Shoosmiths that we're able to give you some feedback on your performance at assessment centre. We've done that for the entire time that I have worked here for. And really for us, it's the end part of the process. So many people might think that they come to an assessment centre and then they hear about the outcome and that's the end of the road. But it's not for us. getting feedback on your performance so you know what your strengths and your weaknesses are for next time is so important. So today, that's what we're talking about, and we want you to be able to use the feedback so that you can go on to do better, whether that's with us, with another law firm, or another industry entirely, and we hope that this is all relevant to all of those areas. So I just want to check that you can hear us okay. So if you can, just hit the wow face for me. We are filming with some new equipment today, so I want to check that it's all working okay. And now you've heard a little bit about me and Yvonne, let's hear a little bit about you too. So I would like you to type into the comments below where you're watching us from today, which city or village or country you're watching us in. So today we're in our Northampton office, which is also called The Lakes. You can't see it, but we're looking out onto some beautiful scenery just behind the camera through our boardroom windows, and there's a beautiful fountain, and there's it's just such an awesome view today, especially with the sun. So where are you watching from? Okay, so let's move on a little bit. I'm going to ask Yvonne some questions about how you can use feedback, and then we will answer your questions at the end as well. So at any time during this filming, for this video filming, you can type your question into the comments below, and we will get round to answering that for you. As well, if you've got any friends that are going through interview or assessment centre process at the moment, just tag them in the comments so that they can come and watch this video live. We will also share the video on our Facebook page after this broadcast, so they will be able to come back and watch it at any time. Okay, so a bit of an overview of why we do feedback there. So Yvonne, a lot of the candidates that come through our assessment centres, we have, well, this time we had 112 candidates that we saw last week, and we made around 24 job offers. So that's a lot of candidates that will be feeling quite upset and maybe expecting some negative or constructive feedback to come back when we start phoning people next week. So how would you advise them to keep on top of their emotions if they're receiving negative feedback?
Good question, Sam. I think the first thing we need to remember is the fact that we are human, and we will experience good emotions, we will experience not so good emotions, and that's a perfectly natural thing to go through, and they're there for a reason, Again, that whole kind of understanding how we function, it's about self-preservation, isn't it? It's just that today, in this environment, it's getting that negative feedback as opposed to, running away from the tiger or the bear, back in caveman days. So, just appreciate that we are human and the emotions are there for a reason. In terms of how we handle those negative ones, I think it begins with awareness as much as anything else. So it's actually just bringing yourself back into the moment, being very, very mindful of literally what's going on in your body, as well as what's going on up here, the physiology, So just paying attention. Quite often we talk about focusing on the breath. If somebody's having a panic attack, what do we say? Focus on the breath, breathe into a paper bag. The breath is a great way of bringing you back into the present moment. I know we use it in mindfulness practice, etc. So just become present, just pay attention, actually, what is going on in my body. Use the breath as a bit of an anchor. The other thing which I think a lot of people don't realise is actually, your breath can help. It does tap into your autonomic nervous system, your ANS system, so it can quite quickly and quite easily help in slowing your heart rate down. So you might be racing, you might be upset. So some nice deep breaths, slightly longer, slightly deeper, will help. And that in itself will help in terms of the messages that the heart is sending up to the brain. Get a little bit of clarity rather than confusion, get a little bit of coherence, and you can access those parts of the brain that actually will help you digest, ask the right questions, get some clarity on what it is that's being given to you, and hopefully enable you to take that next step forward.
Yeah, I think the breathing point is a really good piece of advice. So on our trainee induction week, we took our group of trainees to experience hot yoga, and of course with yoga a lot of that is to do with the breathing, but especially when you're in the hot environment, to make sure that you don't become lightheaded and to slow that heart rate down so you can stretch and use your breath to get through the positions. So for them it was a really good experience in terms of how to perhaps deal with stressful situations and how to deal with that outside of work as well. So yeah,
it's fascinating, Sam. It really is. You know, the first thing we do when we're born, we take that deep breath in. The last thing we do when we are about to die is that breath out. And again, it's automatic. We don't think about it, but actually, just getting a little bit interested, as I say, can be hugely beneficial.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So. What would be the advice that you would give to somebody who's been unsuccessful in a recent interview or assessment centre?
Okay, well, I think success for all of us is our biggest career aspiration, and I think success is different for different people. It comes in different shapes and sizes. So yeah. It is it seems like it's a blow when you know this sort of stuff happens. Hard work, dedication. The key word I think is perseverance. You know, that's key here. To be able to get yourself back on the horse. Another little saying, and get out there and achieve. You know, that's the important thing. If we look at, we look at successful people, you know, whether they're people that are in this business, other businesses that we can relate to, or the famous. You know, anybody really who's achieved some great things has had some setbacks. You know, we talk about Walt Disney. Yeah. That was sacked for his lack of creativity from his first job. Steven Spielberg springs to mind.
One of my favourites, James Dyson.
Hey.
Yeah. Many thousands of failures before he developed that first bagless vacuum.
Yeah, and again, that's interesting. It's that actually success is just around the corner from failure. And an interesting word, and if I think about my interest in NLP, I'm an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming. In fact, that's where my journey, I guess, began with the whole self-investment, self-learning. Failure. What an interesting word. There is no such thing as failure. There is only feedback. And I think if you are able to reframe, then, use it. So it's there for a reason. This information, whether it's at a physical level or, you know, knowledge level, it's there for a reason. What can I learn? What can I take away? What can I do with it? Yeah. So yeah.
I think that would be a great title for this video. There isn't failure. There's only feedback. That's true.
Absolutely. And you know, actually, quitting is the easy thing to do. You know, no. You want something bad enough. You so you can feel the passion. You get out there and you do it. And you know, dare I say, sometimes it's a numbers game. You know, I've had this conversation with my own children, and you know, there's going to be a lot of competition. The numbers that you were talking about in terms of applications, gosh, if you've got as far as the assessment centre, wow, you know, so you have to put it into some sort of context.
Yeah.
So.
We have many examples of trainees or candidates that go through the process the first time and don't do so well, and perhaps because the nerves get the better of them on the day, and then the second time they come through the assessment centre, they absolutely smash the day and perform incredibly. And I think part of that is because they know what to expect out of the format of the day, and of course we update the theme and the exercises every year, but in general, the knowing what to expect, I think, means a lot of those nerves aren't there, and then people are able to perform at a much higher level. So
the other thing that springs to mind as well is, you know, these are incredibly smart, bright people. We work in a business where it's a given people have got that intelligence, the IQ. You know, we're moving into a world and an environment where actually, yeah, that's a given. To be successful, we're looking at being emotionally intelligent. We talk a lot about EQ and being able to build the relationships. Again, it goes back to remembering we're human beings first and foremost, and people are being, well, they're being assessed on, how they perform as human beings almost.
Yeah. So, Yvonne, could you tell us how people could increase their resilience so that they can overcome setbacks easier?
Well, there are a number of things to think about, and again, resilience is a hot topic. It seems to be the buzzword at the moment. Dare I say that? But it does. It's all about being resilient and, you know, bouncing back. And I think we have to remember that resilience isn't just it's not just about how physically and mentally tough we are or how good we are at bouncing back. It's a lot more complex than that. You know, multifaceted. It's a big topic, frankly. What I would say is, again, get to know yourself a bit better. You know, get interested in what's happening with you. You are, you know, we're all able and capable of going on that personal development journey. What is it that would help and support you? Get curious, get interested. A couple of things spring into mind for me, and again, it's another hot topic. The mindfulness stuff is hitting the world of business massively, and we'll perhaps talk a little bit about that in a moment. But mindfulness practice, you know, what is it? It's about learning to be present in the here and now. We talked about yoga, non-judgmental, accepting what is. You know, there's some great practices there. The other one for me, I'm going to mention HeartMath, heartmath.co.uk. It's a great organisation. I'm a HeartMath stress to resilience trainer, and you know, part of my journey has been investing in me, and there's some great tools, techniques, biofeedback technology that these guys are using. It's mind-blowing. I'm tapping into some of that, bringing in some of that into the business here. And actually there are some simple techniques that we could be tapping into. I'm thinking, you know, rewind 15, 20 years ago, you know, science is moving on. And when we think about it, you know, you'd have never have thought 15, 20 years ago necessarily that actually 8 weeks of mindfulness practice could reshape the brain's neuroplasticity. You know, that would have been poo-hooed some years ago. So, you know, we are discovering new things, and I think you've got to trust in yourself to seek something out that works for you. And you know, when we talk about, you know, being resilient, there's a lot to it. It's not just mentally, physically, there's emotionally. We talk about spiritually as well.
Yeah.
So, hot topic, Sam. You've got me on one there.
So mindfulness definitely is a hot topic, and we've driven mindfulness as a firm, haven't we, quite a lot. Is that something that you found was easy to get across to our partnership, or was that a challenge for you as a learning development manager?
Great questions here, Sam. Okay, so my mindfulness journey started a number of years ago, and I actually went to a CIPD event, and there was a guy there doing a talk called Michael Chaskolson, who's actually one of Europe's leading mindfulness teachers. Didn't know that at the time, but it actually blew me away. It really did, because what he was sharing with the research, the work that had been carried out with the US Marines was, well, absolutely, well, mind-blowing. And I remember I came back to the office and I was talking to my manager, Caroline, and I was saying, oh my goodness me, this is just fantastic, da-da-da-da-da. And yeah, I'd kind of planted that seed. I went off and did 8-week MBSR training with Michael in London because I was so gripped by it. And again, came back, we've got to do something with this. And people listened to me. It goes back to, you know, it's the people. I was supported by Caroline, by Louise Hadland, HR director, and put together a paper for the board. And, yeah, you know, we've got some great people who can see that there's something in this. So that was, accepted. We had the pleasure of bringing Michael in to do, he did a talk for the leadership team.
Yeah.
And off the back of that, one of his associates came in and did the 8-week MBSR for some of our partners. And now we've got the Be Mindful tools and resource for everybody else. But you can't mindfulness people. Again, it's a personal journey.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to go on whatever path works for you. We're all unique, and it's appreciating that and understanding that.
Yeah. So Yvonne's mentioned Michael and how he came into our business to share some of the knowledge. So I will add the link for his information at the bottom of this video afterwards. And Yvonne, you've mentioned some heart math and things like that as well, resilience. So again, we'll add the links to those at the bottom of this video so you can follow that and learn a bit more about those things if you would like to. So yeah, mindfulness, you must have heard of it. It is definitely a buzzword, isn't it, at the moment? But it's been really great to be on board with that. And our trainees have run a couple of initiatives over the last few years in terms of getting mindfulness known and raising the awareness of it, so that people can sign up to the 8-week course that we have available to all of our employees.
Yeah. Sorry to jump in there, Sam. What's really interesting about the mindfulness stuff in the years that I've certainly had it on radar and been practicing it, again, research and science is showing us so much. I think now we've proven that it's actually 10 minutes of mindfulness practice a day as opposed to that original 20, 30 minutes actually makes a difference. But it's a bit like, it's like the world of sport. It's a commitment. You know, it's not going to happen if you don't do it. It's that discipline, it's that practice, it's that coming back and, commitment, perseverance.
Yeah. Perfect. So I've got a few more questions before we move on to our audience questions. So if you are watching us and you'd like to ask a question, then type it into the comments now. We will come back to it in a few minutes. We've got a few more topics just to cover now. So I want to ask you, Yvonne, what is your advice to someone where a particular area of improvement is identified for them? So perhaps following an assessment centre, they might be told that they're too quiet and they didn't sell themselves enough. As an example, how would you advise them to use that feedback?
Okay, well, first thing is listen to the feedback. You know, if that's what's being given to you, there's a reason for that. You may not necessarily agree with it. That's fine, but it's important that you do listen and you take it on board. I think that's a good point to take on board broadly. You know, beyond the assessment centre when you come into business or go into any business, be open to feedback. You know, be prepared to take it on board. Actively seek feedback. Get curious. So that's the first thing. It depends what it is as well. Again, getting clarity. You know, some basic communication skills here in terms of really understanding, you know, why that's been given to you. So, you know, get interested. Understand what it is that this person, people, what they saw, what they heard, and it is all about growth. I would also say I think it's worth getting a role model in mind, somebody to perhaps think about in terms of actually they're really good at something, and that's an area that I'm perhaps not so confident in or natural. And again, great believer, if you can see it, you can hear it, you can copy it, you can borrow that behaviour. That's again how change happens. Now, there's certain people that I think about, how would they walk in a room? How would they present themselves? How would they carry themselves? Would they have their head down? No, they wouldn't. And again, it's about that, being able to be open and be bold and brave to try this stuff.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about energy, and if you do have a look at the heart math stuff, you'll see they talk a lot about energy, and that's not pink and fluffy. It's real. You know, emotions are contagious. So, yeah.
I really like your point about a role model, and there's quite a number of people that I follow quite closely on LinkedIn and on Twitter who seem to be really inspiring others, and one of them I'm actually just going to mention is Rosie Watterson. So do go and find her on LinkedIn, but she posts the most amazing motivational posts for people. She's a future trainee for another firm who she's just really inspiring. So do go and find her. And I know that she supports these videos. We're hoping that we'll be speaking to her soon on one of these live broadcasts soon. So I think one of the tips that I've learned from the Learning and Development team through my time here is if somebody comes to you with a problem, it's or a piece of feedback, it's quite easy to either be defensive and say and be negative and that can't be done or that's not right, or to jump in and try and solve that problem immediately or solve the issue that's been brought to you. And I think seek to understand is really important. So take that step back, understand what's being said first. You don't always need to jump in with the advice or to solve. So, yeah.
Just picking up on that point as well, Sam, and it's certainly something worth thinking about. For me, there's a clear difference between being reactive and being responsive. And those of you that have spent time with me, you'll let me say this before. But we can be reactive, which is very in the moment and very emotion driven. Being responsive is what you want. That space between that stimulus and your response is really, really important, and that's where you've got choice. And getting that clarity, whether it's the breathe in or whatever it is you choose to do, really, really important. So yeah. The other thought that was sort of coming to mind as well is we never stop learning. We never stop growing. You know, it irritates me sometimes when I hear people of a certain age, they'll say, oh, well, I'm too old to learn, too old to learn. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. You are never, ever too old to learn, to change, to grow. You know, and that's why I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah, lovely. So one of the areas of the assessment centre in particular that we find people struggle with, and one reason is because it's the first exercise of the day. So the assessment centres this week, if you attended, you'll know that in the morning I was saying to you, your first exercise was actually getting to the assessment centre. Tick, everybody did that. And the second exercise was the group exercise. And I was telling you that just to let you reframe that exercise in your mind, because it's the first one really of the day. So people are nervous about what the day holds and how they're going to perform. So that's one of the reasons that it's quite tough. But the other one is that you can't prepare really for a group exercise because you don't know what other personalities might be around the table. You don't know who you're going to be dealing with and whose personality traits are going to come forward and who might be the leader or the timekeeper or the note taker, but how do you involve still in the conversation? So it's just one exercise that we always find a real mixed performance on. So how can people, I said that you can't prepare, but how could people prepare for a group exercise?
Okay, well I would say, you know, it's about being flexible, it's about being adaptable. And again, the more you understand about you, then the easier this almost becomes. Because if you know that actually I like to sit on the fence, I like to listen, then you're aware of that. And for me, you know, it's about saying, well, actually, I can't afford to do that today because I've got to be heard, I've got to add something, I've got to contribute something. Even if I'm not leading the discussion, then I've got to think of some questions, you know, ask a good question. So, you know, that's your opportunity to shine, and it's important that you do. The other thing to be mindful of is overdone strengths. You know, somebody who's really confident, brilliant, you know, fantastic, but you know, what happens when we are overly confident? You know, when we overdo our confidence, it becomes a weakness. You know, it becomes cocky. So it's just, again, awareness and being open to the feedback and adapting accordingly.
Yeah, so lovely. So Yvonne, I've got one final question just before we move on to check some of the questions that are coming in. Okay. So what about people who do succeed, who are successful and they do get a training contract offer or a job offer? How can they then use any feedback that they still might have, positive or negative, to prepare for starting their job?
Okay. Well, it is an ongoing journey. You know, it's not stopping, as we've talked about already. It is all about that continuous growth. I would say, you know, maintain that curiosity. Again, keeping current in terms of what we're doing, how we're doing it. Networks as well, I think, are really important. I think your network generally on a number of different levels is really important. I quite like the idea of setting yourself some little mini goals as well. and always challenging yourself. I think that's a good idea to do that, and just think about that whole taking on board whatever feedback you've been given. Because for me, even if I'm successful and get through, I want to know why. Know why did this work? What was it that you particularly liked about me? And again, this is that understanding that we're not just looking at using our intellect. It is about the EQ as much as the IQ. It's about our emotional intelligence and the people skills. I know we're in an age where artificial intelligence and great, fantastic, bring it on, but as human beings, we haven't evolved that much, and while we're interacting with others, then we need to be able to tap into that stuff. So
we always say at Shoosmiths it's about people, relationships and results, and that's absolutely relevant to assessment centres or job interviews as well. So Yvonne, that's some fantastic advice and information you've shared with us there. So we'll share the links in the comments after the video so you can find out more information. But if you've enjoyed what Yvonne's been saying, then just hit the love button for us and let's see those coming through. So we are going to take a few questions from the audience. So if you've got a question, now is your time to type it in. I am going to see who's been commenting on here, so bear with me while I look down at the laptop. So Patricia's shared some advice, which is to be open, bold and brave, which I think, reiterates what you were saying, Yvonne, which is fantastic. Thank you, Patricia. Kate has agreed that Rosie is fantastic and a very positive, inspiring influence on LinkedIn. So there you go. Definitely make sure you go and follow Rosie. In fact, a couple of people have agreed with that comment, and Hassin has kindly shared the link to Rosie's blog. Right. So you guys can go and follow that. Let's see what else we've got here. Patricia agrees, never too old to learn. Fantastic quote from Yvonne. So lots of people saying hello. Some people watching from, somebody was watching from our Nottingham office. Hello. Hello, Rebecca. And we've got Marek watching from Leicester. Asan from Yorkshire today.
Wow.
Andrea's watching from Portugal.
Oh,
yeah.
Lovely.
I hope you're having some lovely weather out there, Andrea. Croydon, Leicester, Birmingham. Fantastic to see so many of you joining in with the conversation today. So let's see if we've got any questions. Tristan has asked me what equipment we're using. Well, still an iPhone, Tristan. We've not gone that far in the upgrade, but we've just got some new tripods and a new microphone. So that feels quite exciting. Since our videos now are doing so well and we're reaching such a wide audience, we thought it was time to invest. So yeah, thanks for asking. Any questions about advice and feedback, then just type them in for me. Asan has said perseverance, resilience and determination are key things, not only in the legal profession but any profession.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And failure isn't a negative thing, it's positive because it's a springboard to drive you forward. Absolutely. Which is exactly what we've been saying.
Absolutely.
Cool, so many comments, I can't get through them to see where the questions are. So Kate has asked, how would you advise preparing for a written exercise, especially when there's maths involved, which ours did include this time? Okay,
some great questions here. I think more than anything else, it's keeping yourself calm. Calmness wins the day, doesn't it? That's when you're going to have the best thoughts. We talked a little bit earlier about breathing, tapping into your ANS system. That way we've got clarity. We can access the parts of the brain that we need to. Do not underestimate the power of breathing. Heart-focused breathing, dare I say. And for anyone who does take a little look at the HeartMath resource and tools, we talk about quick coherence techniques, and that's about pulling on a positive emotion, thinking about that time, place, person that makes you feel good as you breathe in. And with the biofeedback technology, you can see what it does. It does bring you into a much more coherent state. You're able then to access that information that you need at there.
I think I'd say with the written exercise this year, we did change it on the assessment centre. So in the past, it's been a task where quite a writing heavy task to draft something, and this year we changed it so it was a variety of tasks. To really reflect the type of tasks you might be doing as a trainee or a solicitor, where it included a prioritisation task, it did include drafting some emails, it included answering some maths questions, yes, some situational judgment questions. So it was a bit of a mix, and I think what we found was, because of the time pressure, which we knew it was quite tight for time, that a lot of candidates were overwhelmed by the tasks in hand, and then didn't read the instructions properly, and then missed out on points. So I think in that time pressure, it felt like it was quite confusing. However, if I were to give the candidates the task outside of an assessment environment, you might find actually it was in isolation. Each of the questions was quite self-explanatory, but it was the time pressure that we put on the candidates, and we did that on purpose to see how you'd react. So it was a bit of a test for us this year as well, to experience that. So well done if you got through the written exercise, because it was a bit harder this year, we think.
Again, you know, it's interesting how we cope under pressure, and if you think about the environment that we're living in, you know, it's pressure, and it's being able to cope with that. You know, high-performing teams, you know, quite often they're under pressure, but you get the dynamics right, you get some of this internal stuff right, and we manage.
Yeah.
So some tools and techniques are very useful.
Yeah. So we've got a couple more questions have come through. So Sam has asked, what qualities do you look out for when first meeting a candidate? So I guess if I answer that one, so in terms of on the assessment centres or at interviews, we are looking for that. We're looking for a wow first impression, of course. You need to be presentable in the way that you want us to see you. And I guess just to remember that the assessment day and what we see of you is just a small snapshot of you as a person. And that's why we encourage you so much to just be yourself, to relax and enjoy the day, because if your nerves get the better of you, what we see as a snapshot might not necessarily be you. So do try to enjoy it. And then in terms of qualities, the qualities that we expect of our trainees, solicitors, and I guess any employee in the Shoosmiths business, which would be team players, really important, because we have 11 offices across the UK, and we do work cross-office. We work doing a lot of cross-referrals between teams and departments as well. So being able to build those relationships and work as teams, even though you might not be in the same location, is incredibly important. I think because we're also open plan and agile working environments, you need to be able to, again, build those relationships as a trainee so that you're comfortable to be able to ask people for help, ask questions when you need to know answers. And luckily, our people are approachable, so you shouldn't have any trouble doing that. So I think being a people person is, great,
absolutely.
A great quality.
Just picking up on that, Sam, you know, we have to remember we're part of this great business, and there isn't just one person that makes it great. You know, it's everybody. Everybody's important. Everybody plays a part, and I think that's really, really important to remember.
Yeah.
So
So let's see. So Hassan has asked, how do you advise preparing for presentations? So Yvonne, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I can. The best advice in terms of prepping for a presentation is practice, and you know, quite literally stand up in an empty room, present to the dog, to the cat. I've done that, still do it. You know, because it's literally, it's a very different thing sitting in front of a computer or in front, you know, you've got your bit of paper and reading stuff through and thinking, yeah, I've got it up here. It's very different when you literally stand up in the front of a room. So actually going through that, having that mock run, practice is probably the best thing.
Yeah.
And timing, I think, you know, it's preparation and actually going through it for a presentation, I would say.
So on our assessment centre last week, Yvonne, the candidates were asked to prepare a 5-minute presentation in a 45-minute slot to prepare. So it was quite difficult to perhaps practice because they were in an environment where they were all together but there was no talking. But
Okay.
in terms of tips for that, I think preparing at home and practicing your presentation style, talking about anything that you enjoy is a great tip. But also, some candidates brought note cards with them, prepared, knowing that they would prepare a presentation, and therefore they then popped onto their notes onto these cards which they use. So that's a great tip in terms of thinking ahead for the day and timing. Yes, absolutely. The times for the presentation to run was 5 minutes. So bring a watch to the assessment centre and time yourself, for all of the exercise. That's a great tip.
I think as well, you've got to remember, again, it goes back to some basic stuff here. Having cards, prompt cards, great, absolutely. If that gives you that confidence, and people are looking at how you present and that energy, how they feel when they're in the room with you almost as well. So,
Yep. So thanks for Hassan for that question. And Andrea says that it's great to see the firm embracing mindfulness, and can trainees get involved in this? So yes, at the moment we've got an 8-week mindfulness course available on our internal intranet, and all employees are welcome to use that. We recently ran a number of surveys in the firm to ask our people what things they would like us to focus on, and mindfulness came under mental health. There's quite a large part of the focus, and gender equality was the other part as well. We were the first firm to release our gender pay gap data earlier in the year, so that's all fed from those surveys, and obviously that's come from our people, so that's great. And then thinking about other things that the trainees can get involved in. Each year on the trainee induction week, we set a challenge to our trainee group that are joining us, and the last couple of years that has had a focus on mindfulness and driving initiatives within their own office environments as a bit of a challenge. And of course, as the prize, we gave away some mindfulness colouring books and some of Michael's mindfulness books as well. So we're keeping with the theme of well-being, I guess. So I think that's the end of the questions that are coming through. If anybody wants to ask a question, I do jump onto the video after the live broadcast, so I will answer anything that comes in. We will share the links to everything that Yvonne has covered today, so you can follow those links to find out a little bit more information. I just want to thank Yvonne for joining us today. It's not easy to be thrown in front of the camera with us, and we are getting through our guests quite quickly now in these videos, so thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
If you've enjoyed what Yvonne has been sharing with us today, then do hit that love heart now, and if you've got any questions or feedback about our videos, then please do share them. We've been talking about feedback and how to take that on board, so share your feedback and we'll take that on board as well. So finally, check out our events page on Facebook. You'll see all of the topics that we're going to be discussing in the coming videos, and if there's anything specific you would like us to talk about, let us know and we'll set up a date for the next video. So thank you so much for tuning in, and good luck getting your feedback.